Set review, the last monocolored. We'll finish this one up, and then the final video will be everything else. All 88 cards of colorless artifacts, lands, and Mystic Archive. Let's go. Accomplished Alchemist. Accomplished Alchemist is 3 and a green for a creature elf druid. At rare, it's a 2/5. Tap to add 1 mana of any color. Tap to add X mana of any 1 color, where X is the amount of life you gained this turn. 4 mana dork is not really where I want my mana dorks to be, but boy does this one block. This also fixes my mana should I be splashing for a card of another color. I don't think you want to be playing multicolored decks in this format. I think you want to be playing 2 colors and perhaps 1 bonkers off-color card, and this will help you do that. It'll help you ramp if you need it for something like Quandrix or other very high value stuff like that. The X mana, if you gain life, I don't know really what you're doing with that, but it's a cool bonus. But this is still a fine card. I think it's a second, third pick. There's always the possibility of some uncommon or your Mystic Archive or something, although we're not comparing cards pickability, but there's always the chance that something's better than this in your pack. But I think I'm happy with the second, third pick for Accomplished Alchemist. Up next is Basic Conjuration. Basic Conjuration is 1 green for a sorcery lesson. At rare, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest in the bottom of your library in a random order. You gain 3 life. It's not the worst. I think I 6th through 8th pick this one. I don't know why this card speaks to me a little bit more. It's not a great rare, but again, this may not be the rare in your pack. We don't know. Yeah, I'm going to go 6th through 8th pick. Obviously, I'm not playing this in my deck. I'm putting it in the sideboard and getting some learn cards. The life gain probably is a little bit of what helps here. But even as a lesson card, I think I like this one just a little bit more for some reason. I guess because this is not some crappy vanilla creature. This is a very roundabout way of me getting a creature that I have chosen to put into my deck. But yeah, let's go 6th through 8th pick on this. Again, if people are actually picking lessons 2nd to 3rd pick, I'm never going to play lessons because I don't think any of them are good enough to be 2nd and 3rd picking. Up next is Bayou Graph. Bayou Graph is going to kill you. And it's going to kill the format too. 1 and a green for a creature plant dog at common. It's a 5/4. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature or pay 3. So it's a 5/4 for 5. That's pretty mediocre. Or it's a 5/4 for 2. Because your opponent, because it's not going to be me, because I'm never that lucky, because your opponent is going to sack their 1-drop, and they've got a 5/4 on turn 2. I don't know where you pick this card. Because you have to have this card, you have to have 1-drops, you have to have your 1-drop in your opening hand, and you have to have this either on top of your deck or also in your opening hand. If you don't have that, the stupid bonkers openings fall off quite a bit. Like, if it's turn 5 and you play this for 2 mana, that's still pretty good, but that's a lot different than you playing this on turn 2 for 2 mana. So I don't know where you pick it. I think you still pick this like 6th through 8th, maybe 4th through 5th. I don't think there's any way that you can 1st, 2nd, or 3rd pick this. But yeah, unwilling ingredient into this or any of the other 1-drops that exist. I'm going to go 6th through 8th just because I think that realistically on the average, you're not pulling this off all of the time. It's going to suck when it happens to you, and it's going to be hilarious when it happens for you. I'm just slightly worried about the consistency, and if you don't get to this, you're doing what? You're playing a bunch of 1-drops that suck? So I'm going to go 6th through 8th. Maybe that means I never see it. and it's going to really make me quit playing this format for days on end when it happens. Up next is Big Play. Big Play is 1 and a green for an instant at common. Target creature gets +2/+2 and gains reach until end of turn. Put a +1/+1 counter on it. So it gets +3/+3 in reach for 2 mana. It's a cute little combat trick. 1 counter sticks around. That's nice. You wheel it. I don't know if you always find a spot for it. It might even function a little bit better as a sideboard card. Up next is Bookworm. Bookworm is 7 and a green for a creature worm at uncommon. It's a 7/7 with trample at least. When Bookworm enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life and you draw a card. Pay 2 and a green, put Bookworm from your graveyard. Why does that read weird? Put Bookworm from your graveyard into your library, 3rd from the top. I think you wheel it. I'm not getting into Quandrix and 8 mana dot deck for this card. If I'm in 8 mana dot deck, okay, cool. Not only that, I could rummage it while learning, or I could discard it in some other way early on when I can't cast it, and then I can shove it into my deck, and then in a few turns I can get it back. The trample's really nice, the draw's really nice. I just really worry about actually casting this. I think there's stuff I want before I want this, or before I think that I'll play this, which I think means that I push this to like 6th through 8th pick. But I think in the decks where it's good, it's gonna be good. Up next is Charge Through. Charge Through is a single green mana for an instant at common. Why is this set Plane Shift? I never quite understood why this set was just suddenly like, Plane Shift. For an instant at common, I guess Crash Through is a sorcery, isn't it? Or is that an instant? Target creature gains trample until end of turn, draw a card. It's Crash Through. This is Crash Through, but it's green instead of red. If you need something for mage crafting, here you go. If you've got some big dumb things and you want to trample through, here you go. It draws a card, which is fine. This card's not the literal worst. I did learn to eventually play Crash Through a little bit more, but you can wheel this. You should be able to wheel this, no problem. Up next is Containment Breach. Containment Breach is 2 and a green. Oh, Crash Through was all creatures? Oh, yes, it was. Correct. Containment Breach is 2 and a green for a sorcery lesson at uncommon. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. If its mana value is 2 or less, create a 1/1 pest. Nope. Wheel it and last pick it. Yes, you don't have to play this. It goes in your sideboard. There's not enough artifacts and enchantments for this to be good. Yes, occasionally somebody will play a very scary rare enchantment, but that's not going to happen very often. You should not waste an actual pick on this card. Easy wheel. Up next is Devouring Tendrils. Devouring Tendrils is 1 and a green for a sorcery at uncommon. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. When the permanent you don't control dies this turn, gain 3 life. 2 mana. Target creature you control deals damage. 2 mana bite. And if it dies, I get 2 life. 2 mana sorcery bite. Sure. 2nd, 3rd pick. Again, like fight spells, but not as bad as fight spells. You got to make sure that you have big things. You're in green. It should be fine. 2nd, 3rd pick. Seems good. 2 life bonus. Cool. Up next is Dragon's Guard Elite. Dragon's Guard Elite is 1 and a green for a creature human druid at rare. It's a 2/2 with Magecraft. Put a +1/+1 counter on it. Pay 4 green, double the number of counters on it. This is a mana sink. This is a very good mana sink. You're going to be playing instants and sorceries. Your 2/2 is going to be a 3/3. It's going to be a 4/4. Late game, you've got some mana. Boop, boop, boop. Very good card. I think you easily first pick this. It takes a bit of time to get going. It's a little bit vulnerable to removal and such. I wonder if maybe there's just going to be way more removal in this set because of Mystic Archives. But yeah, I'll start at first picking this for sure. Up next is Ecological Appreciation. Ecological Appreciation is X2 green for a sorcery at Mythic. Search your library and graveyard for up to 4 creature cards with different names that each have mana value X or less and reveal them. An opponent chooses 2 of those cards. Shuffle the chosen cards into your library and put the rest onto the battlefield. Exile Ecological Appreciation. I mean, surely this is way better in Commander, Constructed, etc. than Limited. What are you casting this for? Like 5? Which means you're casting it for 7? And if you've already drawn your low number of high CMC creatures, because you're playing Limited, you should not be playing 7/6 drops. I think this card's bad. I think this is an F. I think you just shouldn't play it. Yes, at some point somebody's going to be like, haha, here's 4 6 drops from the 9 mana that I spent on this spell. Choose which 2 6 drops I get to have. And it's going to suck, but that's not going to happen. This is an F. I'm never playing this card. Up next is Emergent Sequence. Emergent Sequence is 1 and a green for a sorcery at uncommon. Search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tapped, then shuffle. That land becomes a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature that is still a land. Put a +1/+1 counter on it for each land you had enter the battlefield under your control this turn. So Rampant Growth. Rampant Growth, but our land is very easy to Stone Rain. And our land will probably be a 2/2. This is probably fine. Like, Rampant Growth is good. The place that I want ramp is on turn 2. And this is on turn 2. Now, this probably just gives enough options that it's like a 4th, 5th pick. Yeah, it's kind of like a 2/2 mana dork, basically. Because if they kill it, it wasn't your land drop for the turn. And you could grow it with fractal synergies. I think fractal synergies are super overrated right now. I don't think there's a lot of ways to actually make fractals. Yeah, this is probably a 4th through 5th pick, primarily just due to being a Rampant Growth. If you can do fractal things, cool. If having that 2/2 or perhaps 1/1 matters, cool. It's a Rampant Growth. And Rampant Growth is pretty good. It'll help us splash if you're splashing for a card as well. So let's go 4th, 5th. Up next is an Exponential Growth. Exponential Growth is XX green for a sorcery at rare until end of turn. Double target creature's power X times. So 4 mana to double. 6 mana to quadruple. Doesn't give trample. I don't think this is very good. This is one of those cards that I don't play because it requires a lot to go right and very specific things to go right. It's sorcery speed. Doesn't give any sort of evasion. So like you need to have a creature with evasion down. It needs to have an appreciable initial power for the first doubling to even matter. It's 6 mana to quad? 6 mana to quad. 2/2 green. I'm picking this low enough that I'll never play it. Like, I'm picking this probably 6th through 8th, if not on the wheel, which means I'm never going to play it because somebody else is going to pick it. Up next is Field Trip. Field Trip is 2 and a green for a sorcery at common. Search your library for a basic forest card, put that card in the battlefield, shuffle, and then learn. Seems fine. You're ramping. You're not fixing, unfortunately, but you're ramping. You're ramping on 3, which is less good than 2. That's why I like Rampant Growth more, but 3 is still fine. It's going to get you up to 8 lands for Quandrix, and you get to learn. Seems good. Here's one of the learn cards I like for this color. Still like still probably 6th through 8th pick, maybe 4th through 5th. I think one of my big issues with Learn Lesson 2 is like with the exception of the few learn cards that I just like for what they are, I don't want to pick learn cards, and I don't want to pick lesson cards until suddenly I really want to pick learn and lesson cards. It's weird. It's weird. Let's go 6/8 for this one. Last one was any land, whereas this is basic forest. Well, it was basic, I think, but it was any kind of basic, whereas this is basic forest. Up next is Fortifying Draft. Fortifying Draft is the correct way of saying that. Fortifying Draft is a single green mana for an instant at uncommon. You gain 2 life. Target creature gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the amount of life you gain this turn. So it's always 2/3 of a giant growth, with the potential of being a giant growth or more. Wheel it. Giant growth isn't that amazing. Wheel, probably find a spot for it. If you're in black-green, obviously you can find a better spot for it. But again, it's a giant growth. You can wheel it. Up next is Gnarled Professor. Gnarled Professor is 2 green for a creature tree folk druid at rare. It's a 5/4 with trample. When Gnarled Professor enters the battlefield, learn. Why is this just a 5/4 trample for 4? Like, yeah, you'll first pick an incredibly efficient creature with trample that also happens to learn. Sure. First pick. It's very, 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 very well costed. Up next is Honor Troll. Honor Troll is 2 and a green for a creature troll druid at uncommon. It's a 2/3 with vigilance. If you would gain life, you gain that much life +1. Honor Troll gets +2/+1 as long as you have 25 or more life. 3 mana 2/3 vigilance. Not really stoked by it. Makes my life gain a teeny bit better. And when I finally get all that extra life, it's a 4/4. It's fine. I think you 6th through 8th pick it. And if you end up in green-black, cool. If you end up in green-blue, green-blue, probably don't play it. 6th through 8th pick, Honor Troll. Up next is Carrock Wrangler. Carrock Wrangler is 4 and a green for a creature elf druid at uncommon. It's a 3/3 with magecraft. Put a counter on target creature you control. 5 mana 3/3, eh? 5 mana 3/3. So we've already gone through a little bit of our deck. We've probably gone through a fair bit of our hand. But now our instants and sorceries put counters on things. Potentially even the Wrangler. It's fine. I don't think it's incredible. 5 mana, eh? I'm fighting between 6th and 8th and 4th and 5th. I think I got to go 6th through 8th for this, just because 5 mana is a lot. I need my cards to do something right now for 5 mana, and this takes a bit of time. So let's go 6th through 8th pick for Carrock Wrangler. Up next is Leyline Invocation. Leyline Invocation is 5 and a green for a sorcery at common. Create a 0 green and blue fractal creature token. Put X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the number of lands you control. So you presumably control 6 with treasures and other stuff. You might control less. If it's later in the game, you might control more. The upside of this is that you're probably never getting less than like a 5/5 out of it. But like this very rapidly just becomes, you know, Big dumb creature with 0 evasion that gets jump blocked forever. And bounced and killed. This is why I'm not sold on the fractal deck. Like, this is one of 4 common ways of making fractals. The Serpentine Curve is the other one. Can't remember offhand what the one that isn't the Mancer dude is. So I don't know. I'm on a wheel on this. Not a lot of bounce in this set. There's some. I guess the one bounce explicitly does not bounce tokens. But there's a lot of removal and such. And like, it doesn't matter if your creature's a 7/7 or if your creature's a 97/97. If it just gets jump blocked forever and then killed. I'm going to go wheel on this. We'll see how it plays out. Up next is Mage Duel. Mage Duel is 2 and a green for a sorcery at common. This spell costs 2 less to cast if you've cast another instant or sorcery this turn. Cool, but not necessary. Target creature you control gains +1/+2 until end of turn. Then it fights target creature you don't control. Yeah. Power boost, toughness boost. Awesome. That's what I like in a fight spell. This is a 2nd, 3rd pick card. Again, you don't want to overload on removal these days, but this is a good card. 2nd, 3rd pick, the first one for sure. That's what I like my fight spells to look like. Master Symmetrist is 2 green for a creature Rhino Druid at uncommon. It's a 4/4 with reach. Whenever a creature you control with power equal to its toughness attacks, it gains trample until end of turn. Whenever a creature you control with power equal to its tough. Okay, so whenever a square creature attacks, gets trample. Are we mostly square? I feel like we're mostly not square, right? Like, we got so many 3/2s and 2/1s and 2/3s. Now, it itself is a 4/4 for 4 with reach and trample. And you now have kind of a weird build around to get yourself into. Fractals are square. That's true. Fractals are square. So yeah, like by itself, it's a 4/4 trample reach for 4, which is a 4th through 5th pick. Probably a 4th through 5th pick without any counters or anything going on it. And then you can build around it a little bit more. This might actually be a 2nd, 3rd pick just because of how theoretically easy it should be to build around this. Let's go 2nd, 3rd pick. I think Master Symmetrist actually looks really good because the fail case is very solid on its own. Up next is Overgrown Arch. Overgrown Arch is 1 and a green for a creature plant wall at uncommon. It's an 0/4 with Defender. Tap, you gain a life. Pay 2, sack it, learn. There's a lot of stuff going on here. It's going to block early, stop aggro. Tapping to gain a life, it's going to stop aggro even further. It's going to enable black-green stuff. You pay 2, sack it whenever you want to learn, you can learn. Can rummage if you can't learn a lesson. This card seems fine. This might play a little bit better than you think. I don't want to pick it highly. I'm not on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll pick this 6th through 8th, I think. Like, this might be another of the green learn cards that I like. Yeah, let's go 6th through 8th for Overgrown Arch. Up next is Professor of Zoomancy. Professor of Zoomancy is 3 and a green for a creature bear druid at common. It's a 4/3. When Professor of Zoomancy enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 pest. This is a 4 mana 5/4. Seems good. There's nothing much going on with it. So like 6th through 8th pick at best. But the stats are all there for the cost. Yeah, 6th through 8th pick for Professor of Zoomancy. Up next is Reckless Amplemancer. Reckless Amplemancer is 1 and a green for a creature elf druid at common. It's a 2/2, pay 4 and a green, double Reckless Amplemancer's power and toughness until end of turn. 5 mana to make a 4/4, eh? If you've got nothing else to do, sure. We are unlikely to be doing 10 mana. Yeah, this one does toughness too, which is really cool. Like, it's a bear with an upside. I just don't quite know if I'm 6th through 8thing it. Bear with an upside, I get in for 2, maybe I get in for 4, it hangs back, maybe it trades off or chumps. Later in the game, it's a 4-4. If we get real late into the game, it's an 8-8. I think we can probably go 6th through 8th on this. I'm not going to go crazy on this. This is way closer to the 8th than it is the 6th, I think, though. Up next is Skurid Colony. Skurid Colony is 1 and a green for a creature squirrel at common. It's a 2/2 with reach. Skurid Colony gets +2/+2 as long as you control 8 or more lands. Sure. 2/2 reach for 2. Late in the game, it's a 4/4 reach for 2. I like cards that are good at the start and end of the game. I think I'm 6th through 8th picking this. I think this is a very solid 2-drop. I'm in on this. 6th through 8th pick for Skurid Colony. Up next is Spined Carrock. Spined Carrock is 2 and a green for a creature crocodile. It's a common. It's a 2/4. That's it. Wheel it, and I don't really know why I play this. Theoretically, I should have better cards than this. Up next is Tangle Trap. Tangle Trap is 1 and a green for an instant at common. Choose 1. Tangle Trap deals 5 damage to target creature with flying, or destroy target artifact. Sideboard only. You're not main decking this card. There's not artifacts that you want to kill, really. Rarely there will be. And there's flyers that you'll want to kill, but you don't know that your opponent has them. So keep this in the sideboard, wheel this, pick it up late, bring it in when you see a need for it. Up next is Verdant Mastery. Is this the last? Yeah, we're on to our last green spell. Verdant Mastery is 5 and a green for a sorcery at rare. You may pay 3 and a green rather than pay the spell's mana cost. Search your library for up to 4 basic land cards and reveal them. Put 1 of them onto the battlefield tapped under opponent's control if the 3 green cost was paid. Put 2 of them onto the battlefield tapped under your control and the rest into your hand, then shuffle. I stopped listening to myself. Search for 4 basic lands. Put them on the battlefield. Put 1. If I cheaped out, give my opponent 1. I get 2, and 1 goes to my hand. If I didn't cheap out, I get 2, and 2 go to my hand. Yeah, this is ramp on turn 6. No, I don't want ramp on turn 6. And I am not ramping my opponent. To hell with ramping my opponent. There, I think, might be a number of skill tester cards in this format. And I think the skill is going to be learning that letting your opponents do things without spending resources is bad. This is an F. I don't want to play this card. F for Verdant Mastery. That's going to wrap it up for green. That means we've got one more video to do, YouTube. That's going to be a lot of cards. Colorless artifacts, lands, and mystic archives coming up shortly.